All right, this is a long one. I'll repeat the question when I get to it. Unify Ed and Chattanooga 2.0 are both committed to ensuring equity for all of our young people in Hamilton County. Together, we define equity as all students reaching their full potential by assuring they have access to the resources and supports that meet their individual needs. In practice, equity will show itself in our work, in the policies we support, the conditions we enable, the coalitions we mobilize, and the systems we seek to improve. We know 1/3 of our schools are schools of concentrated poverty, where 80% or more of the student body is eligible for free and reduced lunch. Additionally, given the large size of our district, we know that rural communities can also be isolated from city center resources and opportunities. Historically, across the country and in our county, we have struggled to ensure racial and socioeconomic integration of our public schools, a strategy that research has shown to be effective for improving student outcomes. Here comes the question. As a school board member, what specific strategies will you employ to ensure a plan is developed and implemented to fully integrate our public schools to ensure equity for all of our young people? And Mrs. Mosley-Jones, will start with you.
So the question is?
The question again is, as a school board member, what specific strategies will you employ to ensure a plan is developed and implemented to fully integrate our public schools to ensure equity for all of our young people?
When I was elected to the school board in 2014, my very first school board retreat, they asked us what was a weakness in Hamilton County Department of Education. And I stated at that time to the other 8 peers on the board that I felt the weakness in Hamilton County was the lack of equity. And the rest of them looked at me like they didn't know what I was talking about. And so I then explained what I meant by equity, because for some, they feel like being equal is equitable, and it's not. And so since that, from that time, in September 2014 on, I have been a loud voice about ensuring that our schools are equitable. We've had several administration changes, and so recently with our new superintendent, there have been some changes implemented in which we now have an Office of Equity at the Department of Education, which we never had before. We also have a Chief Equity Officer at the Department of Education, which we've never had before, and there has now begun an Equity Task Force, which is a conglomerate of community members and organizations that have come together in efforts to address what they have deemed down to 3 main issues that they're wanting to look at the inequities on, that would address a lot of the inequities going on in our school. So that's what's already taken place and what I've worked to advocate for. Going forward, we all know that in order to ensure equity, we have to look at bigger pictures. And our lack of equity in our academic arena is not necessarily an academic issue. It's a socioeconomic issue that connects to a lot of other governing entities. And so you have to look at some things from a county commission standpoint, you have to look at some things from the city council standpoint, and even from your state and federal government standpoints, because the lack of economic mobility in our county is what is leading to our academic issues in our schools. The kids only are reflections of what they're coming from, the homes they're coming from, the neighborhoods they're coming out of, the environments they're coming out of. And so I think in order to fully address that, you have to have some grassroots organizations and meetings going on. You have to be able to sit down with those people that are boots on the ground, your parents, your guardians, your custodians, the teachers, the governing bodies, your elected officials, community organizations, the NAACP, all the entities that can work together to do that. It's going to take some grassroots organization, because in order to truly integrate schools, it's not going to be through busing, it's not going to be through forced choice, it's going to be that we have to integrate our neighborhoods and our communities. And when you truly integrate neighborhoods and communities, then your schools become integrated, and it'll be by natural choice, and it'll be organic, and it won't seem forced, and you won't have all these conversations that are mute points and end up being discussed as busing when that's really not the issue. It's an issue of race. And when we're ready to have that conversation, then I'm ready to talk about that.
Thank you. Mrs. Pierre, As a school board member, what specific strategies will you employ to ensure a plan is developed and implemented to fully integrate our public schools to ensure equity for all of our young people?
I'm glad to see that the new superintendent came in and assessed some things that needed to be done in our school system. Did attend some of the meetings that he had came to and spoke with the different people. And there were people in the audience who told him that we had issues in our community in reference to equity. I realize, though, that just putting that in place is going to take a while for people to get their hands and feet into the situation to figure out what they actually need to do. So as a school board member, I would work with the current, well, with the board, whatever board that we might have at the time. I would work with the board, discuss with them the true meaning of equity, what it means to have an equitable situation. The issue that we have in Hamilton County, and we've had for a number of years, is that if you do not have the same amount of money as someone else, you're considered to not be able to learn as well. That's not true. I can say for myself, when I attended school, both my parents were, my mother was a domestic worker, and my father worked in a flour mill. But that did not mean that I could not learn. So we need to, I would look at the student population, ask that studies be prepared, such that we can see what the real situation is. And I realize that there are economic issues that we have, but you cannot just write someone off because they do not have money. I can see, when I see the little children in the neighborhood, I see that their brains are just running. They're ready to learn. But if they're not in a situation where they're given the tools that they need to have to learn, they will not learn. I think statistically, and I hate to say statistics and not quote who said it, but from 0 to 4 are the years where you really need to get in and start working with your children. And we realize that what we need to do is to have a definite plan on equity, make sure that all of the schools are equitable, that you have good teachers, you have the resources that they need. When you do that, you have no problem with who wants to go to school A or school B, because then it's just a matter of what services that school is delivering and how the population wants to move ahead.
Thank you. Ms. Mosley Jones, you have 1 minute optional to respond to anything or a rebuttal.
So a lot of that my opponent has mentioned is already coming into play with our new strategic plan that we implemented last September, and then our new fiscal budget that will start in 2018, 2019. There have been things put in place for us to begin this process, be it the community school model going into pretty much every opportunity zone school in our district, which are the 12 schools, 5 of which we know are priority, 7 of which could soon become priority. If that was the case, that's already being put in place. We have, within the opportunity zone, we have special recruitment for that, to make sure we're getting teachers that we can retain and recruit that are going to be high performing. We're already working on plans. Like I said, the Equity Task Force is dwindling that down to let us know what we need to address as a board. Policy-wise, what we need to change. We know there are some inequities in special education. Those are being addressed. So a lot of the things that my opponent mentioned are already being put into place. We've met about it pretty much this entire school year at school board meetings and talked about these things. And when our strategic plan came out, those things were already shared with the public and put out into place. I just wanted to make sure that the community understands that that's already being in place.
Thank you. And Mrs. Pierre, you have 1 minute for an optional rebuttal or additional comment.
One thing I would like to say is that the school board is working to do certain things. I realize that. And as I said before, they're putting people in place. But I had an opportunity to go through the budget and to look at the superintendent's presentation. And I believe there's still room there to work on outcomes, because you can have certain dollars, but if you don't have the outcomes to match the dollars, then you're going to have issues. So I would work with whatever is being done now, thanking all of those people who have worked in the community to push the board and the superintendent to look at certain things as far as buildings and other things are concerned. But equity is one of the most important things that we have to look at. And I'm hoping that the people on the school board will work together to do those things.
Thank you.